So this is actually insane. Facebook knowingly sold yours and mine and other Americans' data to the Chinese government, and they also helped Chinese military get better AI. It's truly insane. Let's watch.
Here's something that should be blowing up your social media feed, but probably isn't. A whistleblower just testified that Meta, that Meta, one that owns Facebook, Instagram, and more of your life than you'd like to admit, knowingly put Americans and American national security at risk. Why? Because operating in China is good for business. The whistleblower's name is Miss Sarah.
This is where I'm a little confused because I didn't know Facebook was in China, but as we'll see later in the video, apparently they are.
Wynne Williams, she's a former Facebook employee and acted as a director of public policy for about 7 years, from 2011 until 2017. She also wrote the book Careless People, A Cautionary Tale of Power, Greed, and Lost Idealism. Upon writing that book, Miss Wynne Williams was threatened by Meta, the parent company of Facebook, with a fine of $50,000 every time she disparages the company. This has prevented her from doing interviews about her book. However, on April 9th, 2025, Sarah Wynne Williams appeared before the Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime and Counterterrorism, and I watched the whole thing so you don't have to. And what I saw was terrifying. Meta even tried to prevent her from testifying in front of Congress since they claimed it would violate her non-disparagement agreement. In fact, Meta themselves said,
such actions would create an exception to non-disparagement, that it would eat the rule. In such circumstance, nothing would limit or prevent those legislators or their aides from parroting to the public any disparaging statements. And I just want to pause here because a disparaging statement is a true statement. So it's telling you the truth.
And that
So Facebook's basically arguing that Facebook privacy is more important than national security. All the while, we have so many exceptions in the law when it applies to national security. Like government has more freedom basically to operate outside many things that they wouldn't be able to do if there is national security at stake. But Facebook's arguing that Facebook privacy should be above national security, and we'll learn for a second why.
That's a tough one because, I am not a lawyer, but if I go to Congress and I swear under oath to tell the truth, I'm kind of obligated to tell the truth. So that's kind of the baseline of the kind of company we're dealing with here. Facebook actively tried to prevent someone from testifying under oath to Congress. Now, what did this whistleblower say? Well, according to the testimony, Meta's own engineers warned leadership that expanding operations in China would expose American users to Chinese surveillance and censorship.
Have you ever known Mark Zuckerberg to censor on behalf of China?
Yes, Chairman Hawley.
Let's talk about a few specific instances. In 2017, the Chinese dissident Guo Wengyi suddenly had his Facebook profile shut down. Now, Facebook at first said that this was a temporary glitch. Was that true to your knowledge?
No, Senator Hawley.
In fact, Facebook shut down this dissident's page. This dissident, as you pointed out a moment ago, was living on American soil at the time. Facebook shut down that page based on pressure from the Chinese Communist Party. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Let's just take a look here at the documents.
This is where it's insane. It's still going on because even on YouTube, they do this thing where if they don't want you talking about something, they'll demonetize you. They wouldn't shut you down. So it's like they don't break any laws or they don't get, called out in congressional hearing. They basically control what you can make by only monetizing content that they approve of. And crazy part is, just like Facebook, YouTube is not in China, but they still follow the CCP guidelines. They still fold under CCP pressure. And I just realized this because I'm guessing Google probably sells phones in China, and that's why YouTube has to bend the knee. Because Facebook, as you guys will soon see, they sell their Meta glasses and the Oracle thing they have. They sell that in China. Not Oracle, what is it called? The VR headsets they have. I can't remember the name, but they sell that in China, so they bend the knee to the CCP. And even right now, a CCP account named Inconvenient Truth, it's not a CCP account, it's a channel that exposes the CCP, Inconvenient Truth. And it's demonetized because apparently they've been calling out China a little too much for YouTube's liking.
Party member asked for the page of this dissident to be done.
What does this say? Since the US election last year, many say social networks, especially Facebook, influences Facebook influence outcome with fake news. Zhao has read articles and likes our work on hate speech, fake news, etc. He wants to know, does the content of Guao page count as fake news? If so, if someone files a complaint about the page, will the measures be taken? There are many people who want to bring Facebook to China, including Zhao, and there are others who are not so. We need to take measures and do more in such a situation to demonstrate we can address mutual interest. This is crazy. So this seems to be a letter from the CCP to Facebook. They want to take down someone's account, and in return, they're promising Facebook will be available in China in the future. So they're not really giving them anything. If so, if someone files a complaint about page, will measures be taken? There are many people who want to bring okay, this is the same thing. 3 possible responses. There's nothing we can do. There's something we can do. We can do even more than expected.
Dealt with. Now, this wasn't a maybe or a hypothetical. Facebook actually did this. So why did Facebook agree to go along with the whims of the Communist Party of China? Well, because China's a big market, and big markets mean big money.
I want to see why YouTube there has to be some revenue. 1%. I mean, that's actually pretty crazy. 1% is pretty high.
Facebook isn't technically in the Chinese market, but it kind of is. For example, occultist Rift headsets are available in China. But if Facebook can't sell Facebook in China, then what did Facebook see in the Chinese market? Well, in a nutshell, it's the opportunity to sell AI-based surveillance tools to the Chinese Communist Party. Nobody does AI better than Facebook. Now, Facebook is available in like Hong Kong and Taiwan, so at the behest of the Chinese Communist Party, Facebook implemented a tool called the Chief Editor.
Are you serious?
In the documents submitted to the subcommittee, Facebook appears to have been willing to provide the data of users in Hong Kong to the Chinese government at a time when pro-democracy protesters were opposing Beijing's crack.
That's insane. Geez, so this was in 2020 or 2019 when the democracy protests were going on and Facebook was helping CCP arrest those people.
Down. Is that impression correct? And how did Facebook treat Taiwan or Hong Kong?
So that impression is correct. One of the more surprising things is that as part of the censorship tool that was developed, there were virality counters. So anytime a piece of content got over 10,000 views, that would automatically trigger it being reviewed by what they called the chief editor. And what was particularly surprising is that the virality counters were not just installed, but activated in Hong Kong and also in Taiwan.
CCP was using these kind of stuff to kidnap people out of Hong Kong protests. They were basically kidnapping the leaders so the whole movement dies down. That was their strategy. And it's insane that an American company was helping with that.
But this gets worse. This wasn't just about business expansion. According to their testimony, Meta's leadership allegedly hid the risks from the public. They didn't warn users, although they did make Hong Kong users agree to a new terms of service. But they didn't explain that Chinese regulators might have accessed their data, and that means that American citizens who might have had content go viral in Hong Kong or Taiwan could have had their data given to the Chinese Communist Party. That's not just shady, that's dangerous. And then there's the question of AI. Allegedly, Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg learned Mandarin.
This was a project unlike any other project I worked on during my time at Meta, in that it was so centrally led by Mark Zuckerberg, and he was so personally invested in this project. He learnt Mandarin. He traveled to China more than any other country. He had weekly Mandarin sessions with employees.
And then tried to help China compete.
This is insane because we have a video of him speaking Mandarin. Now, in this video, he just claims, he learned it because his wife is Chinese. I think that's why he learned it. But this is where the story gets sketchy, because Zuckerberg asked Xi Jinping to name his unborn son or unborn child. This is insane. At a dinner hosted by Obama and the First Lady, Zuckerberg approached President Xi about the subject of his unborn child. Zuckerberg asked President Xi whether he would be able to give an honorary Chinese name to the daughter he and his wife Priscilla Chain are expecting. When was this? 2015. So around the same time he learned Mandarin. That's insane.
Founder of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg.
大家好，谢谢你来到这里。我很高兴来北京。我爱这个城市。我的中文很糟糕，但是我的天，学用中文。
This thing went mega viral on Chinese social media. Even on YouTube, it has 10 million views. It's insane.
With American companies for AI dominance using Facebook's Llama model.
So it's been well reported that Chinese researchers have used the Llama model both for AI weapons and also that Llama is part of what powers DeepSeek.
Now, at this point, you might be wondering, why?
So they would use the DeepSeek that I think DeepSeek helped crash the market. DeepSeek crashed $600 billion in just NVIDIA, and total market crash was even insane, almost $1 trillion because of China's DeepSeek. And it runs on Facebook's AI, Facebook's large language model.
Would Facebook help an adversary gain AI dominance over the U.S.?
At the moment, as you're aware, there's a debate in the AI community around whether open source models or closed models are more appropriate. And one of the considerations around that is national security. But it's not clear at this moment whether open source models or closed models will ultimately prevail. And there's a lot of money on the line. In some ways, you could say, it's helpful if you want open source to prevail to have a strong threat from a Chinese model so that you can say it's really important that America wins this and we are the American open source option.
This is kind of a
So this is like the big AI debate. So on one side we have OpenAI, and if I'm not mistaken, Elon Musk is also on the same side as OpenAI, at least on this debate, where they don't want to make their model public, and the big reason they argue is AI could be used militarily. It could be used in many different ways, and you don't want countries like China and Russia to just steal all the models they make public, and that's why they're arguing that the best way to do AI is to keep the model secret, right? Like how Facebook keeps its algorithm secret. But on the other side, we have Facebook, and you could argue a little bit that Facebook wants an open source model because they're the only one doing open source model. And on top of that, I would say they're a little bit behind OpenAI, so they want OpenAI to open up their model so Facebook can copy. But I guess the other side Facebook is playing is if they can create the Chinese threat by just helping Chinese catch up in AI, maybe people will more agree with Facebook's model saying open source is the better way. Now, again, Facebook does have some good arguments about open sources, like it's AI. The more people we can get working on the open source model, the more outsourcing you can do. When I say outsourcing, I mean like more people who can look at the model, the quicker it will get better, right? And that's the argument they're making. You don't need just a company with employees to make the model better. If you make it open source, the whole world pretty much is working on it to make it better. So that's like kind of a good argument, but then again, they have like a monetary incentive to do open source because they are a little bit behind OpenAI, so they would rather catch up just using that. I'm not 100% caught up in all this, but that's at least my understanding.
Word from the fifth element way of thinking here. Help our adversary and then turn to America and say, look, our adversary is so advanced in AI. Give me funding for my Llama open source model so we can compete. But here's the problem.
This is insane because back in World War II, all these business leaders were so patriotic that they put the country first above their business. And that's what helped us win World War II. And now we have some of our business leaders actually going out of their way to help China. He's learning Mandarin. He wants President Xi to name his daughter. And it's just insane insane country we have turned into.
Private company with that much power decides to play ball with an authoritarian regime. We all get drafted onto the team whether we like it or not. If Chinese state actors gain access to Meta's infrastructure, that's not just a theoretical privacy concern, it's an intelligence vulnerability. It means that adversaries can map social networks, track individuals, and potentially insert disinformation in ways that are incredibly hard to trace. Once that happens...
I mean, this is also, it's like Facebook doesn't want to stop Chinese misinformation or Chinese bot farms because they want China more involved in Facebook because Zuckerberg wants access to Chinese markets. So he's willing to do whatever Xi Jinping wants him to do. Like, this has so many implications. It's insane.
Put the genie back into the bottle. You know, you might not care about Facebook. You might not even have an account anymore. But Meta still builds the tools that your kids use. It controls the platforms your family scrolls through during dinner. It knows your interests, your locations, and thanks to third-party trackers.
So much for us trying to ban TikTok, all the while Facebook's just selling out to the CCP.
Look, I find people, and then I give that information to my client. And while I don't always know what my client does with that information, usually they, well, you get the idea. Ask any intelligence analyst. The line between advertising profile and targeting package is razor thin. We often use the same data. The whistleblower's testimony paints a picture of a tech giant that saw profit in an authoritarian regime and then ignored its own people when they raised alarms. We're talking about a company that supposedly puts shareholder value over national...
This is insane because in tech companies like Google, employees actually protested because Google was helping US military improve their targeting. So Google was helping them better do facial recognition so they can target just the terrorists, just the people they want to target, and they don't cause citizen casualties, right? Civilian casualties. And employees protested. Employees said this is not something we'll agree with. All the while at Facebook, we have employees helping the CCP, helping the Chinese Communist Party. It's insane. I don't understand how more people are not stepping up and speaking out about this.
Security, and then try to keep you from noticing. If these allegations are true, it's not just an ethics issue, it's a security breach at scale. And no amount of connecting the world spin can cover that up.
Can I just ask you, you know Mark Zuckerberg very well. You spent a lot of time with him. He's recently tried a reinvention in which he is now a great advocate of free speech after being an advocate of censorship.
This is the funniest part because Zuckerberg's saying like all the people, like he's letting people speak basically whatever they want now. But there are so many pages Facebook and Instagram took down after like 2019, 2020 relating to COVID, relating to Trump. And now he's going back on it. But those pages are still not back up. They're still down. And Facebook's not doing anything about that.
China and in this country for years, after suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story, after working hand in glove with the Biden administration to suppress content on COVID, to suppress content on masks, to suppress content on...
We now know that with 90% certainty, US Congress, I think CIA, everyone says that COVID was something that was born out of a Chinese lab. And pages went down. People lost their livelihood because of it, and that's not been fixed.
Election questions, on vaccines, all of that. Now that's all wiped away. Now he's on Joe Rogan and says that he is Mr. Free Speech. He is Mr. MAGA. He's a whole new man, and his company is they're a whole new company. Do you buy this latest reinvention of Mark Zuckerberg?
Senator, there are two things. If he is such a fan of freedom of speech, why is he trying to silence me?
Hey, if you want to support the channel and read about China, grab my copy of The Wind Machine from Amazon. It's about AI and a war with China. I also have some signed copies available on Bunker Branding. You can also grab one of my landmine marker t-shirts there as well. Thank you guys so much.
This is insane. And this is what Zuckerberg was saying after Trump's assassination attempt, the first one. He was very American after that, all the while he was helping the CCP.
About the 2024 presidential election.
Okay.
Facebook has been a flashpoint in many elections around the world, and you personally have been called out, most recently by former President Trump. This is a big election. What do you think is at stake?
Well, I mean, look, it's obviously a very important and it'll be a historic election. I feel like I'm best positioned maybe to talk about what our role will be in it and what we're going to do. And look, I mean, the main thing that I hear from people is that they actually want to see less political content on our services because they come to our services to connect with people. So,
That's why he's taking down all those people who are criticizing the CCP. Makes perfect sense because the customers want it, not that Facebook wants to go into China and earn those CCP billions.
we're going to do, where we give people control over this, but we're generally trying to recommend less political content. So I think you're going to see our services play less of a role in this election than they have in the past. And personally, I'm also planning on not playing a significant role in the election. I've done some stuff personally in the past. I'm not planning on doing that this time. And that includes, not endorsing either of the candidates. Now, look, there's obviously a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. The historic events over over the weekend. And on a personal note, it's, seeing Donald Trump get up after getting shot in the face and pump his fist in the air with the American flag is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life. But, and I think, look, at some level as an American, it's like hard to not get kind of emotional about that spirit and that fight. And I think that's why a lot of people like the guy. But look, we're living in a pretty crazy time. And I view our role here is to make it so that everyone can express their views on this stuff.
Everyone can express their views all the while they're taking down account.
We're living in a pretty but we're going to try to manage it so that way the politics doesn't drown out the human connection and the community, which is, I think, the main thing that people come to our services for. And we're not always going to get that right, but that's what we're going to try to do. And I think that's probably the best role that we can play.